Hello everybody. Welcome to Design Insider's first webinar. And thank you all today for taking the time to join me this afternoon. During this extraordinary time, we know the importance of continuing and instigating conversations on the topics which are affecting our sector. So today I'm going to speak with Claire Menzies, founder and chairwoman of the Istoria Group. The individual companies within the Istoria Group completed over 4,000 individual events, exhibitions, experiences, retail and hospitality projects across the last 11 years. Those projects took place in almost every country across the world and for every company type, from blue-collar multinationals to startups, and were for clients which included the Invictus Games, Amazon, Google, Vital Baby, LV, and the British Society for Rheumatology. So our discussion today is going to last about 30 minutes, and we will have an article that will be published on Design Insider following this interview, which will give Claire the opportunity to answer any questions that you may have. So if you have any questions, please do use the Q&A function on Zoom, and Claire will be able to answer those when we publish the article. So we're going to start off by welcoming Claire. Hello, Claire.
Hello, Alys.
I hope you're well and adapting to working from home.
Yes, I am, thanks. I hope likewise, and everyone watching.
So obviously we are in a very unusual time right now. What would your advice be to business leaders who were experiencing challenges in the face of COVID-19?
Wow, yes. Well, that's a question that I think requires a wide answer, if you can bear with me. These are unprecedented times. There's no doubt. We've never seen anything quite like this. So the first thing I would say, the very first principle is people. I think we all need to consider both the physical and the mental well-being of everyone that we employ, all our colleagues. That's very, very important. And I believe that the way that we do that is through clear and concise communication. So make sure that whatever it is you're saying is not in any way misunderstood, and to remain calm and considered while you're delivering communication. I think honesty, regardless of your business position right now, is very, very important. I think people really respect that, and we really do need to level with everyone and talk to them about all parts of the business, what's happening, the short view, mid-term and long-term views. I think that's so important, and do all that, underpin all that with compassion and show a high level of moral leadership. That should be a given anyway from a leadership perspective, but it's particularly important now. People are anxious and concerned about what's going on, what the future holds. So it's very important that we consider that. And I believe that in many ways, if all companies have a level of resilience planning in place, and they should have that, a crisis plan is so important in terms of sustainable business practice. Really, that resilience planning will help you to be able to deliver all those key messages to the people that work with you. It's very important. And if you don't have that sort of resilience planning in place, I think this is a real lesson, a big lesson, probably the biggest ever lesson that people will learn from this particular situation. Lastly, in this first question, I would say that this is not the end of the world. It's a terrible situation. It's grave. A lot of people have died, and more people will die. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, in so much as eventually this will be over and we will get back to a new level of normality. And so we need to think about that. Communicate with people and help people to understand what that means, so that they recognize that we're considering the fact that there is something at the end of all of this, and to look forward to that if we can.
And so how will a company's culture aid them as part of that process?
That's important. It's vital, actually. It's what's being tested right now, the culture, and also financial resilience. So all those things are so important. Interestingly, for us, for Istoria Group, we have an awards system within the company, and it's based on our core values. And our core values are EPIC, meaning or standing for entrepreneurial sort of thinking or a way of working, personable approach, so the way you are with everyone, each other and your clients, intelligent thinking, innovative thinking, and collaborative working, how we all work together. And so we do a quarterly award system whereby everyone within the group votes for the person they think deserves that award. This time, we've had an overwhelming response to our CEO, Samantha Rowe. It's remarkable. Samantha has delivered all the things we talked about in answer to your first question in such a way, calmly, with consideration and compassion, and concisely. And everyone in the company has been so reassured by that level of leadership. And so I think that's very important. That's a vital piece in terms of culture. Also within the group, because we are a sustainable business, we practice long-term contractual relationships. So we don't do one-off projects. We try to avoid that type of work. So we're already looking to Q3 and Q4. We're already focused on the future and focused on 2021. Also on postponed work, how we're going to fit that into the later schedule in the year. And really, to make sure we don't go from famine to feast, that we're able to manage this process and that everybody understands what's required of them when we scale up again after this crisis is over or calmed down.
And within that, are there ways in which businesses can also help others?
That's a good question. I think right now, certainly, we should be looking to all the businesses that we have contact with, particularly our supply chains. They're equally important. They play a vital role in the way that we manage business. So I would say to people listening in, that's a very important part of connecting with others during this time, and as good practice, best practice anyway. We all need to be thinking how we can contribute to what's going on right now. Personally, I wrote a letter to Matt Hancock, the Secretary of State, about a week and a half ago, just to follow up on what I saw on LinkedIn, which were lots of communications from people in our creative industry offering to work together to help to put together temporary facilities. Like the Nightingale Hospital is a prime example of what's happening right now. That was already in progress, but regionally, the idea is, can we do something for our local community, as well as possible charities that are close to us? And to be clear for people listening in, within the group, Ignition being our founding business and the largest contributor in the group, specialising in exhibitions, events and experiences around the world. We also have an office in Indianapolis, head office being in Bristol. We've been asked in America by another company connected to our industry if we have any exhibition kit that can be used for potential testing facilities over there. So we can put all these things to good use. I think that's a real lesson for us all, to think about different ways of helping during what are unprecedented times.
Because do you think that the business landscape will have changed when we emerge from this crisis?
Well, yes and no, I suppose, Alys. Yes, in so much that the landscape, people will need to have some level of normality to go back to, albeit a new normal. I imagine that things probably won't ever be quite the same, or at least not for some time, in many ways. And yes, I'm sure it will be business as usual in a new way when we move out of all of this. The landscape will definitely have shifted in some ways, and I think if we focus on the experience that our group has, you know, I think the short-termist views probably aren't particularly useful, and this gives us all time to reflect on what that might mean, to be a little bit more conscious about the way that we do business, and the sustainable view being, you know, that the old ways in our industry, particularly for ignition, which are wasteful often practices of building temporary exhibition structures and oftentimes burning them or putting them into landfills. These are things that we should really be considering changing for the better as we move out of this. And I think we'll see once again what it really means to be truly sustainable as businesses navigate through these very, very difficult times.
So I know that sustainability is one of the founding principles for you, isn't it? Could you give some examples of how you have incorporated that practice in very practical ways?
Yes, well, I think for me, the founding principles of this are about people, planet, and profit, in that order. So social, environmental, and economic. In the early days of working in this environment, and just for the purpose of clarity, within the group, obviously Ignition is the founding and largest contributor. We also have Phoenix Wharf, who specialise in interior design, branding, focused on the retail and hospitality industry, and then Caroline, strategic communications. In my early days, agency days, I suppose I saw an awful lot of wasteful practices, large one-off projects, people being employed and then removed after the project was over. And so working on a sustainable view of how this should be and how it should change, the practicalities of communicating with clients about the long view. So educating clients to understand that there is a better way to do business in our creative environment than just grabbing jobs as they come in. Really looking to how you can make a difference over a long and extended period of time. That offers a sort of caring culture throughout your business and in your connection with your customers. So you're giving yourselves the opportunity to work collaboratively, to recognise the best ways to find new ways of working together. I think there's nothing better than being brave about suggesting positive change. People are often concerned about that. And so for me, some practical ways were to connect early on with procurement departments, as an example, to make sure that we had an understanding about continuous improvement policies within our contractual obligations. So both sides were connected to the view that change would happen and for the good, and for all those sustainable reasons that we've spoken about. I hope that makes sense.
It does indeed. So I know that you are an admirer of the entrepreneurial spirit. So could you tell me a little bit more about what that means right now?
Yes, I suppose it's a good time for reflection, isn't it? We're all at home. We've sort of gone off the grid, but we're all working like this in this new technical environment, which is quite extraordinary. When you meet someone for the first time online and you don't know their energy, you've not met them physically. It's an interesting space. I think because we're doing this, constraint drives innovation. There's no question. You know, the great saying, necessity is the mother of invention. I think this is an opportunity. We have to look at these situations as a means of innovation. There's some wonderful things happening right now in the race for ventilators in this crisis. It's quite extraordinary. So considering sort of new ideas for the future, this is a real opportunity to do that. And I think entrepreneurialism is a real constant for us within the group. Being sustainable, that business resilience is so important, and also investing in new ideas and new business opportunities, which probably brings me to the point of our incubator hub, which is the a different section within the group. So we've spoken about the three main sister agencies, the three collaborative agencies with complementary skill sets. Sitting beneath that is an incubator hub. And what we do is we find local businesses, people with great ideas in general, and we help them to create their dreams, to bring their dreams to fruition, albeit in a realistic way, obviously. And we offer mentoring and management skills. We give them an office from which to work, and the entire infrastructure of our business to help them take their ideas to market. And then once they're up and running, and once they are in a position to be self-sufficient, then we cut them loose. And for that, we have a return on investment, because we often invest money and obviously time and expertise into that. That's a wonderful thing collectively for the group to focus on. Since this is what we do, we take ideas to market for all of our clients. It's a great experience. This is at the heart of everything that we believe in. And there are two businesses currently in our incubator hub. One is a children's book publisher called I'm a Bookworm, little bath and board books, extraordinary sort of paper engineering. And then the other is an innovation management platform called Solverboard. Two very different but very interesting and unique ideas, and worth looking into if you don't know about.
And so how do you feel that the current crisis has impacted on businesses that are perhaps at the very start of their journey and they're sort of building their business?
That's a very good question. I suppose in some cases, for the very small opportunities that are maybe one man or one person operations where people are often working from home, the impact may not be quite so great. Maybe this is an opportunity because these people might be working from home, and so whilst opportunity may have changed, their environment may not have changed. Like all these things, if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, you will find a way through this. Not panicking is a big thing. Really sitting back and thinking, taking on board all the things that you have learned so far in creating the idea. Most people that have great ideas will have the basis for this skill to hold the helm while we're going through these stormy times. So I would say continue to practice the things you have practiced so far. For companies that maybe were a little further along with their ideas, these are very difficult times. Let's hope that the opportunity the government has given companies that are struggling to keep that secure foothold in business, a lifeline in terms of some sort of support to get them through this, but also to look at more efficient ways of managing their new ideas until the mist rises and we have a wider view for opportunity again.
Okay. And so for sort of more medium-sized businesses, is there opportunity perhaps for collaboration, cooperation, and sort of working together that the current situation may have brought?
I think so. I think potentially online, I've noticed an awful lot more forums popping up for people, like-minded businesses, to connect and talk through their concerns. I think that's very important, that we potentially we garner what we can from those things. I think one of the strengths of speaking out when you feel concerned is that you often get back extraordinary information. I think it shows great strength to show humility. That's a wonderful characteristic trait of leadership, is to show that. And I think asking for help from like-minded people is potentially, at this point in time, a very good idea. I think if people were to search and look online, there'd be many forums offering connective advice on how to manage these times.
And would that include perhaps reaching out to new markets?
I think as we've seen, Alys, from the recent race for ventilators and protective masks in the creative industry, companies with 3D printers, they're racing to help to create versions of the frames for the the plastic shields. There's all sorts of extraordinary things that are going on. So I think in all these things, if you have that kind of entrepreneurial mind, you will find potential opportunity in all the new restraints and concerns that are coming through and that are on the news on a regular basis. And in every publication that you might read online relevant to your industry sector, the opportunity to find new ways of working based on this new normal that we're all experiencing right now.
Thank you so much, Claire, for such fascinating answers to our questions. At the very end of this webinar, everybody that's been watching will be able to see a slide which has got full information on how you can follow and find out a little bit more about Istoria Group and also about Design Insider. We'll be holding our next webinar next Wednesday at 4 p.m. And if you'd like to pop over to LinkedIn, follow us at BCFA/Design Insider, and that's where we will be posting up-to-date information on who we'll be speaking to next week. I've also had the opportunity to speak with Claire and invite her to come back to another webinar in a month's time. Everything is changing so rapidly that it will be really fascinating to be able to return to this conversation with Claire, ask her more of your questions, and really delve into what is happening at the moment and how it can affect business and your business at the moment. So I'd like to say again, enormous thanks, Claire. And I very much look forward to seeing everybody again next week. Until then, take care. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.